Good morning. How is everyone this morning? Happy Wednesday. Yes, happy Wednesday. I'm really excited for this fireside chat. We have a really special conversation to have this morning. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Jeff Maggioncalda, CEO of Coursera, and Brynt Parmeter, Chief Talent Management Officer at the U.S. Department of Defense.
Thank you.
Very good.
Well, thank you all. Thank you, Diane, and to the whole team for putting the conference together. It's wonderful to be here. I see a lot of familiar faces in the crowd. Jeff, this is a great topic right now, and we have these themes about talent and technology and national security imperatives and skills and permeability, and it might be fun to just hit each one really quick. But
sounds good.
Yeah, just up front, what's your sense of this concept around with AI and this concept of future work and how people and technology interfacing, and this idea that there's human-enabled machine tasks and machine-enabled human tasks and the nature of learning and the nature of work? What's your sense of all of that, and where are we at, and how should we think about this?
I think we're at the beginning of something that is going to be, highly disruptive, and it'll hit different institutions and different individuals and probably different countries in different ways. But one of the things that's so different about AI with generative AI compared to the more traditional AI is that I often say that in the past, and this is certainly true on Coursera, companies were interested in training the builders of AI. And for the most part, AI, for most of us, we're not really users of the AI. We were kind of used by the AI. It's like we experienced AI by seeing ads come up that we would click on. And so people would build these algorithms that would show us things to try to create engagement and profits. But with generative AI, it's a new class that really lets everybody become a user of this technology, potentially changing dramatically the nature of their jobs, the tasks that they perform, the decisions that they make, the tools that they use, the way they interact with their teammates, and the very nature of organizations and how they compete on a global basis.
Yeah, we in DoD, we're still wrestling with this. We have guidance from at the federal level. We have the way we think about things. It's an emerging workforce. There's this process from the talent management side of, one, how could we leverage this to get people into the department? And then once they're in the department, how can we put this in their hands to make decisions, and what should be a AI decision versus a human decision? Have you seen any evolution of thought that we might consider on that?
Yeah, what we're seeing from governments with respect to policy making, definitely with respect to businesses. I was just talking to the head of product for JP Morgan last night in Philadelphia. 24,000 people at JP Morgan building AI capable software and workflows to support the bank. And there's an appropriate amount of caution that says, when you think about this membrane between humans and machines, what role does each play? And at the earlier stages of maturity, you really need to have the humans in the loop, and you need to understand where the risks, the biases, the potential negative impacts can be. There's a model that we use at Coursera. It was developed by Bain called Rapid, which is how to make decisions. And I find this is a very useful tool to talk and think about this concept of humans and machines. Rapid stands for, if you're making a decision, you say, well, what are the roles? Who is the recommender of the decision? That's the R. The A is who's the approver. The P is who will perform the activities when the decision's made. The I is who gives input, and the D is who's the decision maker. One of the ways to think about this human-machine interface is to say, in those 5 basic roles of making decisions and performing actions on them, what role does the machine play and what role does the human play? And what I would say is, getting input, fine if a machine gives you a lot of the input, but maybe fine if the machine gives you the recommendation. But once you start having decisions made by machines without a human in the loop, and then agents acting on those decisions without a human in the loop, you got to be a lot more thoughtful.
Yeah, I do. I don't mean to embarrass anyone in particular in the audience, but I want to highlight Diana Saxman in the back. Diana, you didn't know I was going to do this. If you'd raise your hand. So Diana leads USA Jobs and Staffing. For those of you that have know, it's your pathway for human resources into the federal government. And her team and her work, Bridget on her team who's here, We're working with them to figure out what is the best way to start to do this. They're at the cutting edge. The partnerships between OPM and the Department of Defense are phenomenal right now. And we're really trying to do an agile way to get AI involved in this process of, 18 million applicants a year for different jobs. In DoD, we have, just in cyber alone, we could hire 11,700 people today in just the civilian workforce. That's not counting the uniformed workforce. So we've got to find ways to integrate this technology, but do it in a responsible way so that we're not incorporating bias, so we're not giving people an unfair advantage, that we're following the 36 congressionally mandated rules in a hiring process that do this. How can we think about this and do it faster or better? You have any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it sounds like there's sort of a demand problem and then saying, like, where's all the supply of talent to fill these 11,000 cyber positions? The good news is on a platform like Coursera, we have a 50-hour online training program from Google on cybersecurity, from Microsoft on cybersecurity, from IBM on cybersecurity. So we have, and then lots of other content on cybersecurity, but like full training programs. I think a lot of it is helping people understand where the career and job opportunities are, helping them realize that there are many, many pathways into these jobs now. I mean, it used to be if you didn't get a 4-year degree and have work experience in that field, you can't get into the field. But now what you can do is you can take these micro-credentials, these industry micro-credential programs, they teach you the skills that you need. And because you're doing it hands-on, you can show an employer the evidence of your skills, the evidence of your work. And you might not be a college degree, but it could be an industry credential that will help signal that I know these skills. With respect to the decision-making, I would just say as you get closer to the decisions associated with employment, just make sure there's a human in the loop.
Yeah, I think Diana would nod her head too. We've got to be able to do that. And I know we're going to talk about that later this afternoon as well. Let's transition for a second. We obviously have to think about the national security imperatives with this. It is a dangerous world, and we're in this state of great power competition with, other actors who would prefer to win. I mean, we're in a competition. And we're seeing advances in AI in other sectors, in other ways, whether it's in retail, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in whatnot. But the defense sector incorporates all of those sectors. We have all of that. And for our part, we're trying to find ways that we can not only upskill that workforces that we have, and through those training standards, how do we then apply those same training standards to our hiring standards? And those are two disconnected things right now, and we want to make that better. And I think Coursera and the platforms that you have and other online learning opportunities are going to be a way to help bridge that. There's a cultural element, and there's a technical element, and a content element. How are you seeing anything that is helping other institutions do this well, or what's your thoughts on how this is evolving in now, or maybe in a couple of years from now?
Yeah, well, I think you put your finger on it. I mean, there's an imperative that is affecting, obviously not just the U.S., but globally. Coursera serves 7,000 institutions around the world, about 3,500 businesses in the U.S. and abroad, about 4,000 campuses. These are colleges, vocational schools in the Middle East, in Southeast Asia, in Latin America, all around the world. And then, of course, we work with governments. All institutions are realizing that the imperative is driven by change. As the rate of change increases, the need for agility increases, and that means the rate of learning needs to increase. And then, so we say sort of at a national level, how do we make sure that the country is innovating and changing as quickly as possible? And a lot of what that's about is how do we make sure that there's a policy framework that encourages innovation among the institutions, and also practical constraints to make sure that we understand the risks and we can manage them. Ultimately, it gets down to the individual level. And this is kind of where I think you get to the labor markets and this permeability is making sure that there is the policies, but more the awareness and the practices that say people from different backgrounds can now get access to training independent of where they came from and almost independent of where they want to go to, because there's such a wide spectrum. And I think employers, especially in the government, are reducing the requirements for college degrees, which is a great way to reduce a major barrier, especially for working adults who might be in their 30s, 40s, 50s, who aren't going to go back to a 4-year residential program. The problem, though, is that hiring managers, absent a college degree and work experience, they say, how do I know who to hire? Like, I don't know who has the skills. And this is where I think the training that can happen online, the credentials that can come, not only from a university, but also from industry, can give hiring managers the look that they need to tap into different types of talent pools from anywhere in the country, from any professional background or military service for that matter.
I think that's a perfect segue into this concept that we're looking at now in the Department of Defense, just for the audience's awareness, where we realize for so long we would try to post a job and we could have people show up and try to find those jobs. But now we've got to go upstream. We've got to now do the activations, and we've got to build the ecosystems of talent creation that can generate the talent we're looking for and bring it to the table. And not just for us, but for that whole of nation set of actors, whether you're in industry or academia or nonprofits or the government areas at the federal, state, and local level. And to take that thread just a bit further, that whole of nation set of activities, we can cooperate on the creation of talent, and then we can compete at the point of consumption where competition is good. And because then we need to offer a good value proposition for it. And we're trying to do that and migrate culturally to it. I think that is gonna help us. I don't think we have a shortfall of people. I think we have a shortfall of people trained and aware of what the opportunities are, and then the pathways to get to them.
Yeah, you have described something that if you think about talent pipeline, really from, I don't want to say cradle to grave, or from beginning to end at a given company, we see a lot of companies start when they hire Coursera, they start by training their current people in place. They're like, look, my data scientists don't know how to program in Python. I mean, that's kind of their mission critical needs. So they start there. And then they're like, well, wait a sec, this is pretty good. Let me also do this for my onboarding program. So not for my seasoned veterans, but people just coming into my company as a data scientist. Let's make sure that they have a standardized program for training in Python. And they're like, oh, this is pretty good. Let's actually do this when we hire them before they arrive on their first day. Let's kind of pre-onboard them by training them before they get to the company. And a lot of schools are doing this as bridge programs before you go to the university. Like I was just at Penn yesterday, into the School of Engineering, they do a mandatory calculus class. And they usually do it once you get there. I said, look, why don't we start doing that in the summer so people of different levels can level up to the same level and have a more equal playing field? We're seeing businesses in India now take their onboarding programs and put them into the schools. They're like, look, we hire this position from these 5 schools. Take our onboarding, put that as part of the curriculum in the schools, so our talent pipeline goes all the way into the educational system. And then one more thing that we're doing with the state of New York, which is really cool, is the Department of Labor for unemployed and underemployed citizens is offering these professional certificates. And then the State University System of New York recognizes credit for a college degree. So you could go from being unemployed, having state-sponsored job training program, have credit towards a college degree that you could earn from the SUNY online campus, and then get hired into a job where that professional certificate was actually job training maybe 3 years later.
I love that. That's gonna, I think maybe, I know we're at about 5 minutes, and I want to pull on this thought of permeability a little more and unpack it for a second. So in the Department of Defense, we recognize that we have had this system once you're in the department where you had to choose an active duty route, a National Guard route, a reserve route, a civilian route, or you chose none of it and chose something in the private sector outside of the DoD. And if you wanted to leave active duty, you could go into the Guard or reserve, but if you wanted to come back, you almost had to go back to the beginning and up. Or if you were a member of our civilian workforce, you couldn't really go out to the private sector and back. You could go out, but you couldn't come back without starting over and reapplying necessarily, other than some minor exceptions. And the only group that we actually bring in from the outside of the department directly in the uniform side are medical professionals, lawyers, and some of these other groups. But we realize the way and the nature of work, if you think of these as swim lanes, how do we create the barrier, the ability to go from swim lane to swim lane and do that? And our premise is that that's going to be done through a technology apparatus that allows us to do it. And 2 is the skills taxonomy that lets us see a person, a civilian who's in the private sector as a financial manager with 10 years of experience could come easily into DoD at the same level right now. But culturally, there's an aversion to that because you didn't do what I did to get to that point. Except culturally, when someone leaves uniform or the civilian service to go out of DoD, there's an expectation that they're going to land at that level. But we don't allow that necessarily to come back. Are you hopeful that through this broader and broader understanding about skills that'll help us get to permeability. I'm hopeful for that, and I look forward to thinking how you can partner on that.
And
as well.
I'm not nearly as expert in the nuances of what causes that sort of one-way permeability, if you will. But I know in the private sector, a lot of hiring managers are risk averse. They got a budget to hire a person. If they hire a person who doesn't have the capabilities, the knowledge, skills, abilities to do the job, they're like, that's going to be on them. And they often look to credentials, whether that's a college degree or work experience, like a track record in a career, as a signal that this person can do the job. So I think a lot of what it is hiring managers, absent a college degree or something or some other learning credential, they have to have some belief that the person can do the job. I think where technology can really play a role is by having personalized assessments. Well, first, the demonstration of skills by saying, I know Python. Here's a program I wrote in Python, like observe my skill. I wrote this thing. Or they often do basically case-based interviewing now, where they'll say, like, write an algorithm that does this. So I do think demonstrating your skills is important, and technology can help people do that. Technology can help people demonstrate their skills so that absent a credential or absent certain work experience, they can still demonstrate their skills. Now, culturally, if it's sort of a, hey, you don't understand how things work around here, my sense of what that will require is it is a little bit like the universities, like Yale, their PhD program in public policy. They have a set of courses that are taken on Coursera by the people coming into the PhD program, so they know kind of what they're coming into. There's no reason that an institution can't put out courses not only on technical hard skill training, but soft skills training, values, and showing them this is what this institution is all about, so that when someone shows up, they do have a little bit more of that cultural appreciation and understanding of the way that things work.
Yeah, it's easy for us to, on the stage, say this. And I think we were at an event last week as a last thought. We think of wanting to be innovative. All of us do in our roles. And I would define innovation as something that's new, that is a new way, a product, an idea to do something. But there's a second part. It has to provide value. It has to be executable or implemented. Otherwise, it's just an idea, and therefore it's worthless. What's your, maybe as a last thought, you take this AI, this evolution of artificial intelligence and its associated elements, combined with skills and skills-based hiring and an approach. What's your hopes for the future?
I mean, my hopes for the future is that fundamentally, a lot of what this is about is kind of human capacity and passion. Like, what am I capable of doing if I put my mind to it? And what do I want to be doing? I see a world where people have much greater clarity of what is possible, what's available to them, and then they can choose a path. And like you were saying, it's not a route. It's not like if I make a decision when I'm 18 years old, I'm going to be in this lane for the rest of my life. The idea that I can change as the world changes around me because I can spot opportunities, and if I apply myself, I can learn the skills that are valuable, and then I can apply those skills in a new job role. I just think that the flexibility of going from these rigid pipelines to these much more flexible pathways will be good, not only for the individual and the institution, but for the national interest as well.
Yeah, it'll help us connect both that which is needed on the demand side with the aspirations of individuals on the supply side, so that they know exactly, they can become informed of what's out there, aware of the pathways to get there, and get a sense of self-efficacy that journey is worth it for them and for the institutions.
Yeah, one final thing I'll just say that we're already doing this is just so fantastic is there's this AI coach that we built into Coursera. There are so many people that come to a course from different backgrounds, maybe different language backgrounds, different technical backgrounds. The idea that everybody can have a personal tutor, so that if you're a little bit slower in learning a certain concept, you need to understand it in a different way. It can be truly personalized to your needs. I think will create much more equal access to these types of career opportunities, because it'll really, the AI will help people learn at the pace and in the way that really works the best for them. So we're excited. We're pushing forward there.
Awesome. And then one last thought, and I know we're over. If I could the three members of my team stand up? If you want to connect with us afterwards to partner as one of these domain partners, here's the groups to talk to. I know, Jeff, this has been phenomenal. Thank you for joining. We could go on for probably another hour, but thank you all for listening, and thank you to the team for setting this up.